The mind's Copernican revolution. Tonight, as you wait for sleep, we are going to explore Kant's hidden ideas, the unsettling paradoxes of reason and reality. We will not be looking at the world, but at the very mind that builds the world. What if the calm you feel right now is the perfect state to finally understand the invisible rules that govern your own thoughts? You do not just perceive reality, you actively and unknowingly create it. But if your mind is the architect, what exactly is the blueprint? You might think you are a passive observer, a camera recording the world as it is. You see a tree, you hear a sound, you feel the weight of the blanket upon you. You trust these senses. But Kant proposed something staggering, a revolution as profound as the one that moved the earth from the center of the cosmos. He argued that we have it all backward. The world does not shape our mind shapes the world. This is the mind's Copernican revolution. Before Kant, philosophy was a camera trying to get a clearer picture of reality. After Kant, philosophy became the study of the projector. Your mind is not a mirror. It is a lamp. It doesn't reflect the world. It illuminates it, casting its own structures onto an unknown darkness. You do not discover the laws of reality. You impose them. The very concept of time, the before and after that dictates your every memory and anticipation, is not out there, the universe. It is a feature of your operating system. The same is true of space, of cause and effect. You only see a world of causes because your mind is a machine built to find them. This creates a dizzying paradox. If the tools you use to understand the world are, in fact, the very things creating that world, how can you ever know what is truly real? You are like a map maker who is himself a feature on the map he is drawing. You cannot step outside of your own consciousness to see what your consciousness is doing. When you lie here in the quiet dark, you feel the steady, linear progression of seconds. You feel the space of the room around you. You trust these feelings. Kant asks you to question that trust, not to call it an illusion, but to call it a construction. The profound impact of this is not despair, but humility. We are not prisoners in a world. We are prisoners of the perspective that builds one. You are not a spectator in the universe. You are the invisible force that holds its very structure together. The veil of reality. If your mind is the architect, what is the raw material? If you are living inside a world shaped by your own internal rules, what exists outside those rules? This is where we encounter the great agonizing silence in Kant's philosophy. He forces us to accept a chilling distinction. There are two realities. The first is the phenomena. This is the world as it appears to you. It is the world of trees, stars, emotions, and the very words you are hearing now. It is your entire life. The second is the Noumena. This is the thing in itself, the world as it actually is, raw, unfiltered, and completely independent of your mind. And here is the paradox. You can never know it. You are locked out. You are born wearing a permanent, non-removable headset. This headset translates an incomprehensible storm of data, the Noumena, into the coherent, stable, beautiful, and terrifying game you call reality, the phonema. You can study the rules of the game. You can master its physics, learn its code, and predict its outcomes. But you can never, ever take the headset off to see the true reality that is powering it. We are masters of the shadow play, but completely ignorant of the flame and the hand casting the shadows. Reason, Kant argues, desperately wants to know the Noumena. It craves the absolute. It sends probes into the darkness asking, What is the ultimate truth? What is God? What is the soul? But every probe returns only static. Every attempt to think beyond the appearance of things results in a logical crash. This is the source of that deep human ache. That late-night feeling that there must be something more beneath the surface of everyday life. You are right. There is. But it is, by definition, unknowable. When you look at your hand in the dim light, you are not seeing your hand. You are seeing your mind's translation of your hand. It is not false. It is a translation. The psychological impact is staggering. On one hand, it is a profound loss. We are forever barred from ultimate truth. But on the other, it is a liberation. The world we do have, the phenomenal world, is ours. It is the only one that can be studied, the only one that can be touched, and the only one in which we can live and love and find meaning. You are living inside a masterpiece of your own mind's making. The veil is not a flaw. It is the very canvas on which your life is painted. The invisible architects, the categories of mind. How does the mind perform this magic? If the thing in itself is just a chaotic, unknowable storm, how do you turn that static into the stable, coherent world you experience? How do you see a cup on a table instead of just a swirl of color and form? Kant argued that your mind is not a blank slate waiting to be written on. It comes pre-installed with the software. He called these the categories, 12 invisible architects that actively organize all reality before you are even aware of it. You do not learn these rules from the world. You apply these rules to the world. Consider the concept of causality, the idea that every event must have a cause. You see a ball move because another ball hit it. You believe this must be true. Kant says you don't see causality. Causality is the way you see. It is one of the architects. Others include substance, the rule that allows you to see a thing as a single object that persists through time, rather than a new object every millisecond. And unity, the rule that stitches all your perceptions together into one single, unified experience of you in a world. Imagine your mind as a high-speed, sophisticated factory. The raw, formless material of the Noumena arrives on a conveyor belt. It's chaos. Instantly, the first machine stamps it with space. The second stamps it with time. The next one sorts it into objects. The next connects those objects with causality. What comes out at the end is a finished product. I am lying in my bed, in the dark, listening to a voice. You never experience the raw material. You only ever experience the finished product, already perfectly organized by these invisible architects. The conflict here is that these architects are always working. You cannot turn them off. You cannot experience the world without causality. You cannot conceive of an event without a before and after. This is why, Kant says, reason breaks when it asks metaphysical questions. What caused the Big Bang? We ask this because our mind is programmed with the causality architect. We are forcing a rule of our mind onto a reality that may not obey that rule at all. This is the source of all human restlessness. We are pattern-seeking animals because our minds are pattern-imposing machines. Logic is not something we discovered in the universe. Logic is the internal schematic of the human mind. The universe seems logical because we are viewing it through a logical filter. You do not find order in the chaos. You are the very source of that order. Few arrive here awake. Leave your mark with a like. It helps this reflection reach others who seek truth before sleep. The limits of reason. We trust our reason. We use it to navigate our lives, to build our world, to understand its complexities. It is our most powerful tool. But what happens when this tool, so brilliant at solving the problems of the world, turns its gaze beyond the world? What happens when reason tries to reason? About reason itself. Kant drew a boundary line in the sand. He established the limits of reason. He argued that reason is only valid and reliable when it is applied to the data from our senses, the phenomenal world. It is the master of experience. But the moment reason tries to leap beyond experience, to prove the existence of God, the immortality of the soul, or the ultimate nature of the cosmos, it enters a void. It is operating where it has no jurisdiction. It's like a brilliant detective, perfect at solving crimes within the city limits, who suddenly tries to solve a crime that happened on the moon. The detective can speculate, create theories, and argue, but he has no evidence. He has no ground to stand on. When reason flies, untethered from experience, it creates what Kant called antinomies. These are contradictions where reason proves both sides of a coin to be true. For example, Kant shows how you can build a perfectly logical, flawless argument that the universe must have had a beginning in time. And then, right next to it, he builds an equally logical, flawless argument that the universe cannot have had a beginning, that it must be infinite. Reason contradicts itself. It fails. This is the tragedy of the human mind. We are compelled by our very nature to ask the biggest questions. Am I free, or am I determined? Is there a God? What happens after death? Yet, our very nature prevents us from ever knowing the answers. This is the root of that deep late-night existential anxiety. It's the thought loop you get stuck in at 3 a.m. when your mind chases its own tail. You are feeling the gears of your reason spinning, trying to grab onto something that isn't there. Kant's philosophy is an act of profound intellectual modesty. He is not saying these ultimate things aren't true. He is saying they are unknowable by pure logic. He fences off the territory of knowledge to, as he said, make room for faith. The purpose of philosophy is not to answer the ultimate questions. It is to understand the questions themselves, and to understand why we are so desperate to ask them. It's about mapping the edges of our own cognitive cage. Your mind is a perfect tool for a finite world. The first act of wisdom is knowing the boundary line, knowing what you can know and what you can only feel. The categorical imperative, the unavoidable compass. You are lying here, in the quiet, and a thought drifts in. A memory of a choice you have to make tomorrow. A choice where you could gain something by being less than honest. No one would ever know. It is just you, and the darkness, and this small, branching path. You feel the pull of desire, of ease, of self-protection. But then beneath that, you feel something else. A heavy, silent, unmoving anchor. A feeling of ought, a law. Not a law written in a book or spoken by a judge, but a law that seems to be part of the very structure of your thinking. It does not shout. It just is. This is the center of Kant's moral universe. He called it the categorical imperative. It is a command, an imperative, that is categorical, meaning it is unconditional. It is not an if, then, bargain with reality. Most of our lives are run by hypothetical imperatives. If you want to stay dry, then you bring an umbrella. If you want to be liked, then you are kind. These are practical, rooted in desire. But the categorical imperative is different. It does not care what you want. It simply states, you ought. It is a moral law that Kant argues is not given to us by culture or religion or even our own shifting emotions. It is generated by reason itself. It is the sound the human mind makes when it is functioning correctly, like the pure, resonant chime of a perfectly made clock. How do you find this law? How do you know what it is demanding? Kant offers a test, a mental experiment to run in the privacy of your own mind. Before you act, you must ask yourself one critical question. Can I will that the maxim of my action should become a universal law? It sounds complex, but it is brutally simple. It means, what if everyone did this? Not just would it be bad, or would I dislike it, but could a rational world even exist? Let's take that harmless lie. You need to tell a lie to get out of a difficult situation. The maxim, the personal rule you're creating, is, when in difficulty, I will lie. Now universalize it. Imagine a world where everyone on the planet lies the moment they are in difficulty. In such a world, the very concept of a promise or of truth would dissolve. Language itself would cease to function as a tool for communication. The act of lying only works because you are secretly counting on everyone else to be honest. You are making an exception for yourself, and in that moment, your action fails the test. It is, Kant says, a logical contradiction. This is the cold, beautiful, and terrifying core of the idea. The imperative is not based on empathy. It is not based on compassion. It is not based on consequences or outcomes. It is based on pure, crystalline logic. It does not care if the lie makes someone happy, or if the truth causes profound pain. This is what so many find difficult, even inhuman, about Kant. He created a moral system that is profoundly human. It comes from our reason, and yet it is utterly indifferent to human feeling. It is a compass that points true north, even if true north leads you off a cliff. The ought you feel in the dark is not the voice of your heart. It is the voice of your reason. Recognizing that to act against the imperative is to betray the very structure of your own mind. It is an act of rational self-destruction. We live in a world that worships the gray area. We are told that everything is relative, that context is king, that the right choice depends on the situation. Kant's imperative is a sword that cuts directly through that fog. It forces you to look at your small, private compromises, the text you ignore, the truth you shade, the shortcut you take at work when you think no one is watching. It reminds you that in these moments you are not just making a small practical choice. You are casting a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. You are deciding in that instant whether truth as a concept should be allowed to exist. The psychological weight of this is immense. There is no external judge. There is no one to bargain with, no one to ask for forgiveness. You are your own tribunal. When you violate the imperative, you are not sinning. You are creating a contradiction. You have to live with the knowledge that you, a rational being, chose to be irrational, to act against the very code of your own consciousness. This internal compass does not point to happiness. It does not point to comfort. It points only to consistency. And as you lie here, waiting for sleep, you can feel it. A silent, unmoving north, waiting for you to look up. The kingdom of ends. Now, that same internal law, that categorical imperative, reveals a second, more human face. It is not just a cold, logical test. It is a profound directive on the value of life itself. Kant gives us another version of the law, a different window into the same truth. He commands, act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always, at the same time, as an end. This is perhaps the most powerful idea he ever had. What does it mean? A means is a tool, a thing. A coffee mug is a means to drink. A hammer is a means to build. We use things. They have a price. But an end, Kant argues, is something different. An end in itself is a being who has their own goals, their own reason, their own autonomous world. A person. An end has no price. It has dignity. It is the source of all value in the universe. You, lying here, are an end. The people you love are ends. And so crucially is the stranger you will pass on the street tomorrow. The imperative says, you must never treat another rational being merely as a tool for your own purposes. This is the root of all morality. Think of what it forbids. When you lie to someone, you are using them as a means to get what you want, bypassing their own ability to reason and consent. When you manipulate someone, you are treating them as a complex machine to be operated, not an autonomous being to be respected. The world we live in is built on using people. Our economy is often a vast, complex system of means. That person is a barista, a means to your coffee. That person is a boss, a means to your salary. That person is a follower on social media, a means to your validation. Kant is not saying you cannot interact with people in these roles. He is saying you must never forget that behind the role, behind the means, is an end. You must never reduce them only to their function. This creates a beautiful and deeply lonely vision. Kant called it the kingdom of ends. It is a hypothetical, ideal world, a thought experiment. It is a world populated only by rational beings, each one respecting every other as an end in itself. A world with no manipulation, no users, no tools, only autonomous sovereign individuals coexisting in mutual respect. It is a perfect, frictionless, rational utopia. But here is the paradox. We are not just rational. We are also animals. We are creatures of need and want and loneliness. And living by this rule is heartbreakingly difficult. What happens when respecting someone as an end means letting them make a choice that will hurt them? What happens when using someone, perhaps by not telling them a painful truth, is the only way to protect them? The kingdom of ends is a world of perfect, cold respect, but it may not be a world of warmth. It demands that we rise above our animal instincts, our messy emotions, and act only from a place of pure, rational respect for the autonomy in others. The psychological impact is a profound recalibration of your own worth. Your value, your dignity, is not derived from what you do. It is not from your job, your talents, or how much you are loved. Your dignity is absolute, simply because you are a rational being. You are an end in itself. You have a duty to respect this in yourself, just as you do in others. This means you must not debase yourself. You must not allow yourself to be used merely as a tool. You must treat your own mind and body as an end, not just a means to pleasure or escape. In the silence of the room, you can feel this truth. Every person you have ever met, every person you have ever hurt, and every person who has ever hurt you, they were not just actors in your drama. They were the main characters of their own. They were all ends in themselves, and the moral law was present in every single forgotten interaction. This is the quiet weight of being human. To live in a world of tools, and to be the only thing that is not one. The paradox of freedom, caught between cause and choice. You feel the stillness of the room. You hear a sound from outside. You decide to shift your position. A simple, small choice. But was it a choice? Or was it an inevitable chemical reaction? Was the decision to move simply the end of a long, unbroken chain of causes and effects? Your muscles moved because a nerve fired. The nerve fired because of a signal in your brain. The brain signal was caused by a feeling of discomfort. The discomfort was caused by what? The air pressure? The meal you ate hours ago? The entire history of the universe leading up to this single inevitable twitch? This is the paradox of freedom. Kant looked at the world of science, the phenomenal world, and he saw a perfect, closed system. In this world, everything has a cause. Every event is the child of a previous event. There are no exceptions. This is the foundation of reason, and you are part of this system. You are a biological machine. Your thoughts are electrochemical events. Your desires are hormonal. From this perspective, freedom is a charming, arrogant illusion. You are a puppet in a grand cosmic clockwork, convinced you are the one pulling the strings. But then Kant looks at that other world, the one we just explored, the world of morality, the world of the ought, and he realizes something just as profound. If we are not free, then the entire concept of morality is meaningless. It is absurd. You cannot tell a falling rock that it ought to fly upward. You cannot tell a river it ought to flow back to the mountain. It is nonsense to command ought to something that has no choice. If you are just a machine, then the categorical imperative, that deep, anchoring feeling of duty, is the most ridiculous illusion of all. The very existence of that feeling, the very fact that you can even conceive of a choice between right and wrong, demands that you must be free. You must be an exception. You must be an uncaused cause. So here is the dilemma. Reason, when it looks out at the world, proves that freedom is impossible. But reason, when it looks in at morality, proves that freedom is necessary. You are 100% determined, and you are 100% free. This is an antinomy, a direct contradiction that reason cannot solve. And Kant's solution is one of the most daring in all of philosophy. He says, both are true. They are true because they are spoken about two different realities. You are a citizen of two worlds. In the phenomenal world, the world of time, space, and causality, the world your body inhabits, you are completely determined. Your every action is the result of a prior cause. There is no escape. But in the noumenal world, the unknowable world of the thing in itself, the world where your rational self resides, you are completely free. You are an autonomous end in itself, outside of the chain of causality. Your will is not an event in time. It is a force that acts upon time. You can never prove you are free. Science will never find it. You cannot hold choice in your hand, but you must postulate it. You must act as if you are free. Freedom, for Kant, is not something you discover. It is something you decide. It is the necessary assumption you must make in the dark to even begin the act of living a human life. As you lie here, you are both. You are a physical body, breathing in a determined rhythm, blood flowing through veins on a predictable path, utterly bound by the laws of chemistry. And yet, you, the consciousness listening to these words, the I that will choose to accept or reject them, are radically, terrifyingly free. You are the ghost in the clockwork. The paradox is not a problem to be solved. The paradox is you. The good lie, the paradox of benevolent deception. Let us return to that lie. The categorical imperative, in its cold, rational purity, forbids it. It says you must not lie, because if lying were a universal law, truth itself would self-destruct. It is a logical contradiction. But our human hearts rebel. We feel a different pull, a pull of compassion. What about the good lie? The lie told not for self-gain, but for kindness. The lie to spare someone's feelings. The lie to protect someone from a pain they are not ready to bear. What happens when the cold, universal law of reason comes into direct conflict with the warm, situational desire for benevolence? This is where Kant's philosophy meets its most painful and most famous human test. His critics proposed a scenario. A murderer is at your door. Your friend, whom he is hunting, is hiding in your closet. The murderer asks you directly, "Is your friend here?" Your hypothetical imperative screams, "Lie, lie, to save your friend." It is an outcome-based, compassionate human response. You want to protect. You want to help. Kant's answer is chilling. He says, you must not lie. You must tell the truth. Why? This is the moment that defines his entire system. His reasoning is a brutal piece of logical architecture. First, the categorical imperative is absolute. It has no exceptions for good intentions. The second you make an exception, the entire foundation of morality as logic collapses. You have decided that your feelings, your desired outcome, are more important than the universal law of reason itself. You have made yourself the exception. But his second reason is even more profound and more terrifying. Kant argues that you are not responsible for the consequences of your truthful action. You are only responsible for the morality of the action itself. If you tell the truth, and the murderer, in his own free will, goes and kills your friend, the murderer is 100% responsible for that evil act. But if you lie, and the murderer, not believing you, waits outside, and your friend, thinking he is gone, climbs out the window and is caught, you are now partially responsible for the death. By lying, you inserted yourself into the chain of consequences, and you cannot possibly know all the variables. The one and only thing you can control is your own moral consistency. Your duty is to the truth, not to the outcome. This is the ultimate paradox of Kant's ethics. He asks you to value abstract truth over a concrete life. He asks you to respect the murderer's autonomy and rationality by telling him the truth, even as he intends to use it for evil. This feels to us like madness. It feels like a system that has lost touch with humanity. But for Kant, it is the only way. The moment we start lying for the greater good, we have fallen off the stable ground of reason and into the shifting sands of calculation. We become gods, trying to predict the future, deciding which lies are good and which are bad. Kant says we are not smart enough for that. We are not gods. We are just rational beings, and our only duty is to not betray the code of reason itself. As you rest here, think of the small good lies in your own life, the compliment you did not mean, the reassurance you gave that you did not believe. You did it from kindness. You did it to be a good person. Kant forces us to ask a devastating question. Was that kindness a form of respect, or was it a form of disrespect? Did you, by protecting them from the truth, treat them as an end in itself, an autonomous being capable of handling reality? Or did you, with the best of intentions, treat them as a means, a fragile thing to be managed, a child to be protected from the world? You may not agree with his conclusion. You may find it monstrous. But the question he leaves behind, that question, that paradox of kindness and truth, will echo in the quiet for a very long time. Radical evil, the shadow in the human will. In the quiet of this room, as you drift, It is easy to think of morality as a simple choice between light and dark, between the good voice of the categorical imperative and the bad voice of temptation. We like to believe that people who do terrible things are somehow different from us. They are broken, monstrous, or ignorant. They are other. Kant looks into the human heart, into the very structure of our will, and finds something far more unsettling. He finds what he calls radical evil. This is not the evil of monsters. It is the evil of us. It is not a glitch in the system. It is a fundamental, universal, and inescapable feature of being human. It is a radical evil because it comes from the root, radix, of our own free will. It is a shadow that is cast by the very light of our reason. What is this shadow? It is not, Kant argues, that we are driven by animal instincts we cannot control. It is not that we are simply weak or ignorant. It is something much more sophisticated and much more damning. Radical evil is the choice of a perfectly rational being to demote the moral law. It is the act of looking at that unmoving, universal ought of the categorical imperative and calmly, consciously deciding to place your own self-love, your own desires, your own happiness above it. It is not the absence of the moral law. It is the subordination of it. It is the human tendency to say, I know what is right, but I will do what is good for me, just this once. It is the creation of a private exception, a self-serving footnote to the universal law. This, Kant says, is a corruption that infects every single human will. It is the crooked timber from which humanity is made. Let's illustrate this. The moral law, the categorical imperative, is present in your mind. It says, do not lie. Do not use people. Be honest. This law is the supreme motive, but you also have another powerful and necessary motive, self-love, the desire for your own well-being, happiness and security. Both are part of you. The good will, the holy will, would always place the moral law first. It would say, I will be happy, but only within the boundaries of what is moral. Radical evil is the subtle, brilliant, self-deceiving twist. It's the voice that whispers, the moral law is excellent. I respect it. But my happiness comes first. I will be moral, as long as it doesn't cost me too much. You have not rejected the law. You have simply demoted it. You have made it a means to your own happiness, rather than the end itself. This is the source of all self-deception. This is the logic of the person who believes they are a good person, even as their life is a series of small, selfish, convenient exceptions. This is not a psychological flaw. It is a philosophical one. It is an act of bad faith we play on ourselves. The true terror of radical evil is that it is an act of freedom. A monster is not evil because it has no choice. A rock is not evil. An animal is not evil. Only a being who knows the good and is free to choose it can be truly evil, because only that being can freely choose to reject it. This is the shadow cast by our own freedom. The greater our capacity for reason, the greater our capacity for this sophisticated, self-justifying evil. The psychological impact is the annihilation of our own innocence. You cannot blame your upbringing. You cannot blame your instincts. You cannot blame society. When you make that selfish exception, it is you, your rational, free, autonomous self, that is the author of the act. As you lie here, you can feel this tension. You can feel the quiet, crystalline structure of the ought, and right beside it, the warm, pulling, seductive gravity of yourself. This is the human condition in a nutshell. Not a battle between a demon on one shoulder and an angel on the other. It is a battle of priorities within your own rational mind. The shadow is not an invader. The shadow is you, exercising your freedom to put yourself first. And the only way out, Kant suggests, is a revolution of the will, a conscious, painful, daily choice to reprioritize. To catch yourself in the act of making an exception and to force the moral law back to its supreme, unconditional place. It is the hardest work a human can do. The duty to dare to know, Sapere, Aude. Before Kant built his great system, before the categories and the imperatives, he wrote a short, powerful essay. It was an answer to a simple question. What is enlightenment? His answer was not about science or politics or technology. It was about you. It was about your mind and the courage it takes to use it. His answer was a motto, a call to action, a duty. Sapere Aude. Dare to know. But to know what? What is this courage he speaks of? He defines enlightenment as mankind's emergence from its self-incurred immaturity. Immaturity, he says, is the inability to use one's own understanding without direction from another. You are immature if you let a book be your understanding, a pastor be your conscience, or a doctor be your guide. You are a passenger in your own life. And crucially, Kant says this immaturity is self-incurred. It is not because you lack intelligence. It is because you lack courage. It is because you are afraid of the work and the risk of thinking for yourself. Why are we so afraid? Kant argues, it is because we have been made comfortable in our immaturity. It is easy to be a passenger. It is easy to let others think for us. The guardians, as he calls them, the institutions, the authorities, the voices that promise certainty and safety, have made thinking for oneself seem not only difficult, but dangerous. They have warned you that the world is complex, that you're not smart enough, that you will make a mistake, that you will be lost. And so you remain in the playpen, as he calls it, afraid to take a single step on your own. You have chosen the comfort of certainty over the vertigo of freedom. You have traded your autonomy for a sense of belonging. The duty to dare to know is therefore a moral duty. It is the first duty you have to yourself as a rational being. It is the duty to become an adult. It is the duty to stand up, to silence the guardians, and to trust your own reason as the final authority in your life. This is not a call for arrogance. Kant is not saying, your opinion is truth. Remember, this is the same man who wrote The Limits of Reason. He is not saying you can know everything. He is saying that for the things you can know, the world of experience and the laws of morality, you must use your tool, your reason. It is a call for intellectual responsibility. It means you must do the hard work. You must question the assumptions given to you. You must challenge your own beliefs. You must be willing to stand alone, guided only by the light of your own understanding and the force of the moral law within you. It is a lonely and often frightening position. It means accepting that you are the legislator of your moral universe. It means there is no one else to blame. Think about the guardians in your own life, the voices you allow to substitute for your own thought. It could be a political party. It could be a social media feed. It could be a charismatic leader. It could be the simple, powerful pull of what everyone else thinks. In the quiet, you can identify them. You can feel the comfort they provide. Sapere Aude is the command to question them. Not to reject them blindly, but to put their claims before the tribunal of your reason. To test them, to analyze them, and to decide for yourself. The psychological impact is a profound and often painful shift from being a child to being an adult. It is the realization that no one is coming to save you. No one has the answer. The only tool you were given is the one inside your own skull. As you lie here, waiting for sleep, you are on the cusp of that emergence. Sleep itself is a state of passivity, but the mind that waits for sleep is free. The duty to know is a duty to be your own author. It is the courage to look at the world and at your own life and to use the word I think, I believe, I will. This is the first step in any revolution, the one that happens in the silence of a single mind when it decides, finally, to be free. The feeling of the sublime, finding yourself in the overwhelming. You are standing at the edge of the ocean. A storm is rolling in. The waves are monstrous, rising like mountains and crashing with a violence that shakes the ground. Or you are standing under a perfectly clear night sky, far from any city, and you look up. You see the infinite, silent, impossible cascade of the Milky Way, the sheer scale of it, the countless stars, the blackness that goes on forever. What is the feeling that rises in you? It is not just fear, it is not just wonder, it is something else. It is a mix of terror and delight, a feeling of being infinitely small, crushed and powerless, and yet at the same moment feeling an inexplicable sense of exhilaration, of expansion. This, Kant says, is the feeling of the sublime. It is one of the most important and strangest experiences a human can have. It is a crack in the fabric of the ordinary world. Where does this feeling come from? Kant makes a brilliant distinction. The beautiful, he says, is when we see something that feels right. A flower, a melody, a face. It is harmonious. It feels designed for our minds, as if it fits our senses perfectly. The beautiful is calming, but the sublime is the opposite. The sublime is not harmonious. It is too big. It is too powerful. It is chaotic, formless, and overwhelming. It is the mountain that threatens to crush you, the ocean that threatens to drown you, the infinity of space that threatens to annihilate your significance. The sublime is an object that defeats your senses. Your imagination, your mind, tries to grasp it, to put a frame around it, and it fails. You cannot hold the entire ocean in your thought. You cannot comprehend the scale of the galaxy. Your senses have been broken. So, why does this failure, this terror, turn into delight? This is Kant's great insight. The delight does not come from the object. The ocean is not sublime. The galaxy is not sublime. They are just big and formless and dangerous. The feeling of the sublime comes from you. It comes from a sudden, shocking discovery about your own mind. When your senses fail, when your imagination breaks, something else inside you rises to the challenge. That something is your reason. Your reason, your rational self, can think of infinity. It can conceive of totality. It can understand the concept of an absolute. In that moment of sensory failure, you are suddenly made aware of a second faculty within you, a power that is superior to your senses, a power that is not part of the physical, phenomenal world. You feel delight because you have just discovered that you, your rational mind, your true self, is bigger than the ocean. You are not just a small, fragile, physical body that can be crushed. You are a rational being who can think the very thing that threatens to destroy you. This is a profound moral and spiritual experience. The sublime is a negative pleasure. You first feel the pain of your physical limitations and then the pleasure of your rational superiority to those limitations. You are, in that moment, a citizen of two worlds. You are the phenomenal self, small and afraid, and you are the noumenal self, the end in itself, which is part of a realm beyond the physical. The sublime, Kant argues, prepares you for morality. It makes you feel, in a way no logical argument can, that your true self is not your body or your desires, but your reason and your will. It reminds you that you have a dignity that cannot be crushed by anything the physical world can throw at you. As you lie here, you can conjure this feeling. Think of the most overwhelming thing you have ever witnessed. a force of nature, a vast crowd, an idea so large it frightened you. Feel that initial shrinking, that fear, and then feel the other part of you, the part that watches the fear, the part that understands the scale, the part that is not and can never be overwhelmed. That is the you Kant is talking about. The sublime is the feeling of your own rational soul waking up. It is the terror and the glory of realizing that you are the biggest thing in the room, even when you are lying perfectly still in the dark. Beauty as a secret agreement. What happens when you see something beautiful? Not sublime, not terrifying, but just beautiful. The perfect curve of a seashell, the way the light falls on a face in the late afternoon, a melody that feels, for a moment, like the only thing that has ever made sense. You say that is beautiful. But what is that? Is it just your personal subjective opinion? Is it just a cultural preference? Or is something deeper happening? Kant believed that when you experience true beauty, you are tapping into a universal secret. You are not just saying, I like this. You are making a judgment. You are saying, this is beautiful. And in doing so, you are implying that everyone else ought to agree with you. You are speaking not just for yourself, but for all of humanity. This is a strange claim. How can a feeling be a universal judgment? Kant argues that the experience of beauty is a special kind of play. It is a free play between two of your cognitive architects, your imagination and your understanding. Usually these two work together on a strict schedule. Your imagination gathers sensory data, the shape, the color, the sound, and your understanding immediately slaps a concept on it. It says, that is a rose. That is a C minor chord. That is a face. The object is categorized, filed away, and the experience is over. You have known it, but you have not seen its beauty. But when you encounter a truly beautiful object, something different happens. Your imagination gathers the data, but the understanding cannot find a single definitive concept for it. The object is so perfectly formed, so right, that your understanding doesn't just file it, it engages with it. The imagination keeps offering new possibilities, and the understanding keeps finding new patterns in a perfect, harmonious, endless loop. This feeling of harmony, this free play of your mental faculties, is what you perceive as beauty. The object is acting as if it were perfectly designed for your mind to play with. It feels as if the object and your mind were made for each other. This is the secret agreement. When you feel beauty, you are not learning anything about the object. You are learning something about your own mind. You are experiencing the pure, harmonious functioning of your own cognitive architecture. And because this architecture, imagination and understanding is universal, because every human has it, you feel that your judgment of beauty must also be universal. You are sensing a shared human reality. This is why beauty feels so important, so meaningful, even when it is useless. A beautiful sunset doesn't feed you or shelter you, but in that moment of play, it confirms that your mind is in working order, that it is in harmony with the world. This leads to a profound connection between beauty, morality, and the divine. Kant calls beauty the symbol of the good. Why? Because the experience of beauty is selfless. When you are lost in that free play, you are not thinking about yourself. You are not asking, what can this do for me? You are not trying to possess the object. You are simply appreciating it disinterestedly. This selfless, disinterested state is a practice for the moral life. It is the same mental muscle you use when you act from the categorical imperative, acting for the sake of the law, not for the sake of your desires. And that as-if quality, the feeling that the world was designed for you, points, Kant says, to the illusion of purpose, the idea that a benevolent intelligence structured the world. You can't prove it, but beauty lets you feel it. So, as you rest here, think of the last thing you saw that was truly beautiful. Not just pretty or nice, but something that stopped you, that held you in that state of free play. A piece of music, a painting, a person. In that moment, you were not just a passive observer. You were an active participant in a universal harmony. You were feeling the secret, silent agreement between the shape of the world and the shape of your own mind. Beauty is the whispered promise that you belong here. The illusion of purpose, why the world feels designed. You look at the natural world, and you cannot escape a feeling, the feeling of design. The intricate, perfect architecture of a snowflake, the way a river carves a valley, perfectly irrigating the land, the astonishing complexity of the human eye, an instrument so sophisticated it feels built. The world does not feel random, it feels purposeful. It feels as if it were all arranged for something, perhaps for us. We seem to be living inside a grand, intelligent story. This powerful, persistent feeling is what Kant calls the illusion of purpose, or more technically, teleological judgment. It is an illusion not because it is false, he never says it's false, but because it is an assumption we make, not a fact we can ever prove. It is a story our reason tells itself because it needs to. Where does this story come from? Kant argues it's another feature of our mental operating system. We have two ways of looking at the world. The first is mechanical. This is the view of science. It sees the world as a chain of cause and effect. A river is not for irrigating the valley. It simply is water flowing downhill due to gravity, and the valley is the result of its erosion. The eye is not for seeing. It is the result of eons of random mutation and natural selection. This view is logical, cold, and for many deeply unsatisfying. It explains how things work, but it never explains why. And the human mind craves why. So we have a second way of seeing, the teleological view. This is the view that sees purpose. It looks at the eye and says, this is for seeing. It looks at the ecosystem and says, this is for balance. This purpose-seeking mode is a heuristic, a mental shortcut. It is a necessary tool for us, as we are beings who create purpose. We build a watch for telling time. We write a song for expressing emotion. We project this human way of being onto the universe itself. We cannot help but see the universe as if it too were the product of a grand, rational creator. We see a mind behind the curtain, an author for the story. Kant's crucial move is to say that this feeling of purpose is not a discovery about the world. It is a necessity of our own reason. We must assume the world is purposeful, even if we can't prove it, because it is the only way we can make sense of it. It is the only way to motivate ourselves to study it, to find its laws. We are scientists, searching for the rules of the game, as if a game designer wrote them. The paradox is that we must hold both views at once, the mechanical and the purposeful. They are two different languages for describing the same unknowable reality. Science, the mechanical, is the language of knowledge. Purpose, the teleological, is the language of meaning. The danger, Kant warns, is when we mistake one for the other. When we try to prove God exists by pointing to the design of the eye, we are making a logical error. We are treating a necessary feeling as if it were empirical evidence. It is an illusion, but it is the most important illusion we have. It is the bridge between the cold, factual world of science and the warm, meaningful world of morality. It is the secret agreement of beauty, writ large across the entire cosmos. As you lie here, you can feel this illusion. You can feel the deep, intuitive sense that your life, that all of this, is not just a random accident, that there is a point, that your suffering has a purpose, that your joy has a meaning. The scientist in you may say, that is just a chemical reaction, a survival instinct. But the human in you, the rational self that Kant champions, needs to believe in the story. This illusion is the source of all hope. It is the foundational act of faith that allows you to get out of bed in the morning. Kant's philosophy doesn't ask you to solve this contradiction, it asks you to live inside it. To be a rigorous scientist and a hopeful humanist, to accept that you live in a world of cold, mechanical causes, and to simultaneously act as if you are a character in a grand, purposeful, and meaningful story. The illusion is the air your soul needs to breathe. Universal hospitality. From the grand cosmic scale of purpose, Kant brings us down to the most basic human interaction. What happens when a stranger arrives at your door? His thoughts on this are not a dusty political footnote. They are a direct, radical, and challenging extension of the categorical imperative. He calls it the right of universal hospitality. This is not a right to be welcomed as a guest. It is not about charity or kindness. It is a much colder, more logical, and more powerful right. It is the right of a stranger not to be treated with hostility by reason of his arrival on the territory of another. It is the right to safe passage. It is the right to simply be there and not be harmed as long as you are peaceful. Where does this right come from? It comes from a simple, undeniable fact. The earth is a sphere. It is a finite, round surface. We are all shipwrecked on it together. There is no infinite space to expand into. The surface of the globe belongs jointly to all of humanity. No one, Kant argues, has an inherent right to any piece of it more than anyone else. By virtue of our shared coexistence on a limited globe, we are in a state of perpetual community. You do not choose to be in a community with the person on the other side of the planet. You are in one simply because you share the same closed system. Therefore, when a person arrives, they are not invading your property in the ultimate sense. They are simply moving from one part of the communal property to another. To treat them with hostility, to turn them away when they are of no threat to you, is to deny this fundamental fact. It is to act as if you own a piece of the globe that, by nature, cannot be owned, only used. This is a direct challenge to our deepest tribal instincts. Our minds are built to see us and them, insider and outsider, citizen and alien. Kant is applying his universal reason to this primal fear. He is saying that stranger is an end in itself, just as you are. Their rationality, their dignity, is not dependent on their place of birth or the language they speak. By treating them as a threat simply for arriving, you are treating them as a means to your own sense of security or as a thing to be expelled. You are violating the moral law. The right of hospitality is the application of the kingdom of ends to the entire planet. It demands that we see past the artificial borders we have drawn on the map and see instead the single round surface on which we are all equally trapped. This is not a call for open borders in a simple, naive way. Kant was a realist. He distinguished between the right of visitation, which is universal, and the right of settlement, which can be negotiated by states. But the default position, the moral position, must be one of non-hostility. The burden of proof is on you to show why this peaceful stranger should be turned away, not on them to prove why they should be allowed to stay. Think of how this idea fundamentally rewires our world. It sees nationalism, xenophobia, and tribalism not just as unkind, but as irrational, as a logical error, as a failure to understand the basic spherical fact of our shared existence. As you lie here in the privacy of your own nation, your own city, your own home, you feel safe because you are on the inside of the line. Kant's idea is a quiet, radical breeze that blows through those walls. It reminds you that those walls are an illusion, a temporary agreement. The outside is not a void. It is populated by other ends in themselves, who have just as much right to the surface of the earth as you do. This philosophy is a profound challenge. It asks you to be a citizen first of the earth and second of your nation. It is a call to evolve your consciousness from the tribal to the cosmopolitan, to be, in your mind, a citizen of the world. This is not a warm, emotional plea for togetherness. It is a cold, logical, inescapable demand of reason. The dream of perpetual peace. If humanity is a collection of rational beings, all bound by the same moral law, why is our history a story of near-constant, brutal, irrational violence? If reason is universal, why are we so divided? This is the great, bloody paradox of human existence. Kant looked at the world of his time, a world of endless, pointless wars between kings and empires, and he was horrified. He saw war as the ultimate failure of reason, the moment when humanity descends to the level of animals, settling disputes not with law, but with force. War, for him, is the ultimate evil, because it institutionalizes the act of treating human beings as means to an end. A soldier is a tool. A civilian is collateral. the kingdom of ends is burned to the ground. In response, he wrote one of his most hopeful and practical essays, Perpetual Peace, a philosophical sketch. It is not a utopian fantasy. It is a blueprint. It is a logical argument for how peace could be achieved, not as a temporary ceasefire between wars, but as a permanent condition of humanity. It is a dream, yes, but it is a rational dream. He lays out a series of articles for this peace, and they are astonishingly modern. He argues first that no peace treaty can be valid if it is made with secret reservations for a future war. Peace must be total. He argues that no state can be acquired by another through inheritance or purchase. Because a state is not property, it is a society of people, ends in themselves, who cannot be owned. He argues most famously that standing armies shall be gradually abolished because a professional army, existing only to wait for war, makes war inevitable. It turns peace into a mere pause. But his most radical idea, the one that forms the core of this dream, is what he calls the Republican Constitution. By Republican, he meant what we would now call a representative democracy, a government where the citizens are the ones who decide, through their representatives, whether or not to go to war. This, he argued, is the only solution. Why? Because if you are a king, an autocrat, war is a simple, abstract calculation. You are sitting in your palace, you declare war, and you send other people, means, to go and die for you. It costs you nothing. But, Kant argues, if the people who must do the fighting, the people who must pay the taxes, the people who must see their homes destroyed, are the same people who get to vote, they will, in their own rational self-interest, be extremely reluctant to choose it. They will, he wrote, hesitate very much to naturalize on themselves such a severe burden. This is Kant's Copernican revolution in politics. He is moving the center of power from the ruler to the people, not for the sake of rights, but for the sake of logic. He is creating a system where self-interest and morality align. The dream of perpetual peace is not a dream of changing human nature. It is not a dream that we will all suddenly become saints. It is a dream of building systems, rational, logical structures that make war the irrational and unpopular choice. It is a project of engineering peace based on a realistic view of human nature. As you lie here, you are living in a world still defined by armies, by autocrats, and by the constant threat of war. Kant's dream feels distant. It feels naive. But is it? Or is it the only logical path forward? The unsocial sociability of humanity, our tendency to be in conflict, is the very thing that forces us to create laws to manage it. This, Kant believed, is nature's secret plan. Nature uses our conflict to force us, over centuries of suffering, to finally choose reason, to build, out of the ashes of our own irrationality, a global kingdom of ends. The dream of peace is not a passive hope. It is a project. It is a piece of moral architecture we have a duty to build. We're halfway through this journey. Maybe you've closed your eyes, but your mind is still learning. Subscribe now and stay with us for what's coming next. The unsocial sociability, the friction that makes us human. Why build these systems? Why create peace? Why do we even need a categorical imperative to manage our behavior? It is because of a deep, strange, and beautiful contradiction in our very nature. Kant called it our unsocial sociability. It is one of his most brilliant and human insights. It is the paradox that we, as a species, are pulled in two opposite directions at the very same time. On one hand, we have a powerful sociability. We have a deep, instinctual need to be with other people. We seek community, love, friendship, and approval. We are driven to be in society. Our greatest achievements, our language, our art, our science, are only possible because we are social. We are not designed to be alone. But at the exact same time, we are cursed with an equally powerful unsociability. This is our propensity to isolate oneself. It is our vanity, our selfishness, our desire for power, our need to have our way. It is that stubborn, individualistic, competitive streak.
When we are in society, we are immediately in conflict with the very people we need. We want their company, but we also want to dominate them. We want their approval, but we are envious when they get it. We are a species that cannot stand to be alone and cannot stand to be together. We are a walking, talking contradiction. We are an unsocial sociability. Now, a lesser thinker might see this as a tragic flaw, a bug in the human code, but Kant sees it as a feature. He sees this as the engine of all human progress. This is nature's secret plan in action. Nature, he argues, wants humanity to develop all of its capacities. How does it do this? It uses our conflict. It uses our vanity and our selfishness. It is because we are vain that we strive to be better than our neighbors. It is because we are competitive that we innovate, that we create, that we build. The friction of our unsociability is like the resistance that allows a tree to grow strong. Without the wind pushing against it, the trunk would be weak. Without the friction of our selfish desires, humanity would remain in a pastoral state, a state of Arcadian shepherd's life, as he calls it. We would be simple, happy, and lazy. We would be good-natured, but we would have no talent. We would be content, but we would have no worth. This is a startling idea. It means that all the things we dislike about ourselves, our jealousy, our ambition, our stubbornness, are the very tools that nature is using to forge us into something better. Our radical evil is the raw material for our goodness. This conflict, this painful friction of living together, is what forces us to create laws. It is what forces us to invent morality. It is what forces us, slowly and agonizingly, to evolve from animals into rational beings. The entire project of civilization, the perpetual peace, the kingdom of ends, is not a denial of our unsocial nature. It is the result of it. It is the solution to the problem that we are to ourselves. The psychological impact of this is profound. It allows you to look at your own dark side with a new kind of respect. Your unsocial tendencies are not just flaws to be eradicated. They are part of the engine. The tension you feel between wanting to be with people and wanting to be free of them, that is not a sign that you are broken. That is the sound of the engine running. It is the sound of progress. As you lie here, you are not a good person who is sometimes bad. You are not a social person who is sometimes selfish. You are both simultaneously in a state of perfect, productive friction. You are a masterpiece in progress, and the chisel is the very conflict you feel every day. This is the paradox of our species. We are forced into peace by our love of war. We are forced into community by our own selfishness. We are forced into goodness by our own evil. The moral argument for God, the necessary postulate. You are lying in the dark and you feel the weight of the moral law. That ought, that unconditional command to act rightly, to be good, even when it costs you, even when it brings you pain. You feel this duty, but you also look at the world and you see that the world does not reward goodness. You see the dishonest thrive. You see the cruel gain power. You see the virtuous suffer. There seems to be no justice. Your reason tells you to be good, but your experience tells you that goodness is a disadvantage. This creates a deep, agonizing split in the human soul. A good person struggles, while a corrupt person enjoys the fruits of the earth. How can a rational being continue to choose the good when the universe seems so profoundly indifferent, even hostile to it? This is the chasm that Kant must bridge. Remember, he has already proven that we cannot know if God exists. Reason, when it tries to leap beyond experience, fails. It crashes. God, the soul, and freedom are unknowable by pure speculative logic. The Tribunal of Reason has already dismissed the case. But now, Kant brings God back, not as a matter of knowledge, but as a matter of necessity. This is his famous moral argument. It is not a proof of God's existence. It is an argument for why we must postulate God's existence in order to make sense of our own moral lives. It is a practical necessity, not a theoretical one. The argument flows like this. Our reason, as we have seen, commands us to follow the categorical imperative. It commands us to seek the highest good. What is this highest good? Kant says it has two parts. 1. Perfect moral virtue, acting from duty, and 2. Perfect happiness, a world where your happiness is in exact proportion to your virtue. A rational being must seek both. The problem is we cannot guarantee the second part. You can control your virtue, your will, but you cannot control the world. You cannot make the world fair. You can be a perfect saint and still be miserable. This, for Kant, is a rational contradiction. It makes the moral law seem absurd. It is a command to build a bridge to a shore that doesn't exist. Therefore, Kant argues, to save the rationality of the moral law, we must postulate, we must assume that there is a power in the universe capable of making this connection. We must assume a God who can and will, at some point, perhaps in an afterlife, which requires postulating the immortality of the soul, guarantee that happiness is perfectly aligned with virtue. God is the necessary condition for the highest good to be possible. He is the guarantor that the moral universe is not a cruel joke. He is the author who ensures that the story, in the end, makes sense. You do not know this. You believe it because you must. It is a rational faith. This is a God stripped of all traditional dogmatic trappings. This is not a God who gives you commands. You get your commands from your own reason. This is not a God you pray to for favors. This is God as a logical necessity, a postulate. It is the ultimate as if. You must live as if the universe is just, even when it appears not to be. You must act as if your good deeds are not in vain. This idea is a profound psychological anchor. It is a way to find strength in the dark. When you feel the despair of the world's injustice, when you ask, why bother being a good person? It doesn't matter. Kant's moral argument offers a lifeline. It says, it must matter. The very structure of your reason demands that it matters. Therefore, assume the existence of a reality in which it does. It is the ultimate act of rational hope. It is the choice to believe that the moral compass you feel inside you is not pointing into a void, but is, in fact, aligned with the hidden, unknowable, but necessarily just structure of reality itself. Human dignity, the price that has no price. In the modern world, we use the word dignity a great deal. We talk about it as a right, as something to be given or taken away. For Kant, this is a profound misunderstanding. Human dignity is not a right bestowed by a government. It is not a feeling of self-worth. It is not something you can lose through poverty or sickness or humiliation. Human dignity, for Kant, is an absolute intrinsic value. It is the core defining fact of your existence as a rational being. It is the single explosive idea that separates the world of things from the world of persons. It is the end in itself we explored earlier, but it is worth returning to feel its full, unshakable weight. Kant makes a crucial distinction between price and dignity. Everything in the world, he says, has either a price or a dignity. If it has a price, it means it is replaceable, it is relative, it can be exchanged for something else of equivalent value. A car has a price, a house has a price. Even your skills have a market price. They are all means. They are valuable because they are useful to someone, for something. But that which has dignity is above all price. It is not relative, it is intrinsic. It is not replaceable, it is unique. It cannot be exchanged for anything. It is not valuable because it is useful. It is valuable in itself. And the only thing in the universe that has dignity, Kant argues, is humanity, or more precisely, the rational nature within every human. You, lying in this bed, have dignity. Why? Not because you are nice, not because you are smart or talented or loved. You have dignity simply because you are a rational agent, because you are a being who can think, who can choose, who can legislate the moral law for yourself. You are not just a thing in the world of causality. You are a source of value. You are, in your own person, a kingdom of ends. This dignity is absolute. It cannot be earned, and it cannot be lost. A person who has committed a terrible crime still has this dignity. A person who is in a coma still has this dignity. This is why we must not use them. When we punish a criminal, Kant argues, we must do it because they are a rational being who deserves the consequence of their free choice, that is, respecting their rationality, not just to make an example of them, which is using them as a means. This idea is the bedrock of our entire modern concept of human rights. It is the philosophical engine that says, you must not torture, you must not enslave, you must not exploit. It is not because it is unkind or unpleasant. It is because it is a rational contradiction. It is to treat a person as a thing, an end as a means. It is a logical error of the highest order. But this dignity is also a burden. It is a duty you have to yourself. Because you have dignity, you are commanded by your own reason never to treat yourself as a mere thing. You must not debase yourself. You must not sell your autonomy for comfort. You must not let your own mind lie fallow, as we saw in Dare to Know. You have a duty to respect the end in itself that is you. As you lie in the quiet, feel this. This is not self-esteem, which comes and goes. This is not ego, which is built on comparison. This is dignity. It is an unmoving, unconditional, objective fact about you. It is the value you have, even when you feel worthless. It is the crown that you cannot take off, even in the darkest night. It does not matter what the world thinks of you. It does not matter what you have done. The legislator within you, the potential for rational moral choice, is sacred. It has no price. It is the one, fixed, non-negotiable point in a universe of shifting relative value. It is the reason anything matters at all. The legislator of your moral universe. We have spoken of the moral law, the categorical imperative, as this heavy, unconditional ought. It can feel like an external force, a cold, crystalline law imposed upon you from the outside, a divine command or a rule set in the fabric of the cosmos that you are forced to obey. But this, Kant insists, is a profound misunderstanding. It is the final, crucial twist in his moral system. The moral law is not external, it is internal. You are the one who writes it. This is the principle of the autonomy of the will. It is the idea that you are not just a subject of the moral law, you are its author. You are the legislator of your own moral universe. What does this mean? Kant argues that a moral law cannot be moral if it comes from outside of you. If you obey a law because you are afraid of God's punishment, you are not being moral. You are being prudent. You are acting from fear. If you obey a law because your society demands it, you are not being moral. You are being conformist. If you obey a law because it makes you feel good, you are not being moral. You are acting from inclination. All of these are hypothetical imperatives. They are all forms of heteronomy, other law, where your will is being determined by something other than itself. Your will is not free. It is a slave to fear, or to desire, or to culture. The only truly moral action, the only truly free action, is one where the will obeys itself. But how can a will obey itself and not just be random chaos? It obeys itself by acting rationally. And when a rational will creates a law for itself, what kind of law can it create? It cannot create a law based on its personal private desires. That would be heteronomy. It can only create a law that all rational beings could also create for themselves. It must create a law that is universal, and that law is the categorical imperative. The categorical imperative, act only on a maxim you can universalize, is not a command from God. It is the only law a truly free and rational will can possibly give to itself. This is the mind's Copernican revolution, applied to morality. Before Kant, morality revolved around an external good, God or happiness or the good life. Kant puts the human will at the center. You are the sun. The good is not something you discover. It is something you create through your rational choice. You are the source of all moral value. When you feel the ought of the moral law, you are not hearing the voice of a distant God. You are hearing the echo of your own rational free will. You are hearing the law you wrote. This is why you must obey it. To disobey it is not just to break a rule. It is to contradict yourself. It is to betray your own legislation. It is an act of rational self-destruction. The psychological weight of this is staggering. It is a terrifying, liberating, and deeply lonely idea. It is liberating because it means no authority, no king, no priest, no government can ever be the source of morality for you. You are the highest court. But it is terrifying and lonely for the exact same reason. You are the highest court. There is no one else to blame. There is no one to ask what is the right thing to do. You must ask yourself. You must run the test of universalization. You are the sole, sovereign legislator of your inner kingdom. As you lie here, you are not a subject waiting for orders. You are a legislator sitting in the silent parliament of your own mind. Every choice you make tomorrow is not just a choice, it is legislation. You are casting a vote, writing a law, and building the very moral universe you must then inhabit. The question is not, what am I supposed to do? The question Kant leaves you with in the dark is, what law are you writing? The Tribunal of Reason, putting thought itself on trial. Where does all of this come from? All these massive ideas, the limits of reason, the categorical imperative, the kingdom of ends, the autonomy of the will, they are not just a collection of brilliant insights. They are the result of a single monumental project, a project that defines Kant's entire life and work. He called it critique. And the best way to understand critique is to think of it as a courtroom. This is the image Kant himself uses over and over. He is putting reason itself on trial. He is building the tribunal of reason. For centuries before Kant, philosophy was a battlefield. You had the rationalists who believed you could think your way to ultimate truth, like God or the soul, just by using pure logic. And you had the empiricists, who believed all knowledge comes only from your senses, and that any talk of God or ultimate truth was meaningless noise. These two camps were in a state of perpetual, unwinnable war. Their claims and counterclaims, Kant said, were the scandal of philosophy. The battlefield was chaos. So Kant decided to stop the war. He decided to turn the battlefield into a courtroom. He would not fight for one side or the other. He would be the judge. He would put human reason itself in the defendant's box. The central case is this. Reason has been making claims it cannot back up. It has been overreaching. It has been claiming to know things beyond the limits of all possible experience, the Noumena. This, Kant says, is dogmatism, and it is bringing all of philosophy into disrepute. The purpose of his critique, his tribunal, is to do one thing, to determine the sources, the extent, and the limits of human reason. It is a grand, critical inventory. It is reason, for the first time in history, turning upon itself to investigate itself. The critique of pure reason is the court transcript of this trial. The categories are the laws of the court. The antinomies, like, did the universe have a beginning, are the evidence of reason's confusion. And the final verdict is the one we have been exploring. Reason is guilty of overreaching. The verdict is this. Reason is only valid when it is applied to the data from the senses, the phenomenal world. In this, it is a brilliant and powerful king. But the moment it tries to leap beyond the senses to know the thing in itself or the nature of God, its claims are null and void. They are illusion. This is the great compromise that ended the war. He gives the empiricist knowledge. He agrees we can only know what we can experience. But he gives the rationalist meaning. He saves God, freedom, and the soul, not as things we can know, but as necessary postulates for the moral life. He draws a line to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith. This project is the very definition of enlightenment, dare to know. It is the ultimate act of intellectual maturity. It is reason taking responsibility for itself. The psychological impact is one of profound humility and confidence. It is humility because we must accept that we are not gods. We are finite beings. We are locked inside our own headset. We can never know ultimate reality. The biggest questions will never be answered by our logic, but it is also confidence. Because within those limits, within the world of experience, the world of science, the world of our lives, reason is king. We can trust it. We can build a world. We can understand. As you lie here, you are inside that tribunal. Your own mind is that courtroom. Every time you get stuck in a late-night thought loop, what is the meaning of it all? You are feeling reason overreach. You are feeling it fly beyond its jurisdiction. Kant's tribunal is a comfort. It is a judge's gavel, slamming down and saying, "This question is unknowable, stop the loop." Reason is dismissed from this case. It gives you permission to stop trying to solve the unsolvable. It frees your mind from the burden of metaphysics and returns it to the work of living. The trial is over. Reason now knows its job, and you can finally and rationally rest. The thing in itself, the defendant who never appears. We have been speaking all this time about a veil. We have called the world you see phenomena, the appearance of things. We have said your mind is a projector casting shapes onto a screen. But what is the screen? What is the source of the data that your mind so brilliantly translates into reality? This is the great haunting and central mystery of Kant's entire system. He calls it the Noumena, or more famously, the Ding and Sich, the thing in itself. It is the ultimate unknowable. It is the defendant in the tribunal of reason who has been charged with being reality, but who never, ever appears in court. All we have is testimony. We have the witnesses, your five senses, but they are unreliable. They are not witnesses. They are translators. They are interpreters who speak their own language. We have your reason, the architects of your mind, but they are the prosecutors, imposing their own structure of logic onto the case. The one thing we don't have, and can never have, is the defendant itself. What is the thing in itself? It is the world as it is, completely independent of any mind. It is the what that exists before your mind stamps it with time. It is the what that exists before your mind organizes it into space. It is the raw, pure, unfiltered, and formless source of all reality. It is the electricity, and your mind is the television that turns that formless current into a coherent picture and sound. You can study the television. You can learn its wiring, its pixels, its code. You can become the master of the image it produces. But you can never stick your finger into the wall socket and know the electricity itself. The second you try to know the thing in itself, you have failed. Because to know is the act of the television. To know means to translate. The moment you perceive it, it is no longer the Noumena. It has already become phenomena. You have already wrapped it in time, space, and causality. This is Kant's most profound and most frustrating boundary. It's like trying to see the true color of an object that is in a pitch-black room using only a red flashlight. What will you see? You will only ever see red. Your mind is the red flashlight. The architects of your mind, time, space, causality, are the color of its beam. You can never know what color the object truly is. You can only know what it looks like to you. This is the source of all human restlessness. It is the more that we feel must exist. All of spirituality, all of mysticism, all of deep physics. It is just humanity, pressing its face against the glass of the phenomenal world, trying to guess at the shape of the thing in itself that is moving on the other side. Science does not chase the thing in itself. Science chases its shadow. It gets better and better at describing the shadow, the phenomena, but it can never turn around and look at the thing that is casting it. The psychological impact of this is a profound, radical humility. It is the end of all human arrogance. It is the admission that we are not a mirror of nature. We are artists, trapped inside our own studio. We can never know if the tree we are painting looks like the real tree. We can only know that our painting is internally consistent. This idea does not imprison you. It liberates you. It frees you from the burden of needing to know the ultimate truth. It allows you to instead focus on the truth that is given to you, the world of experience, the world of your life. The defendant, the thing in itself, never appears. It remains silent. But in its very silence, it defines the entire shape of the courtroom. It is the void around which your entire known universe is built. The two realities, the world you touch versus the one you can never know. Because of this great unbridgeable divide, you are, at this very moment, a citizen of two separate worlds. You live a double life. This is not a metaphor. According to Kant, it is the fundamental structure of your existence. The first reality is the phenomenal world. This is the one you are in right now. It is the world of your senses, the feeling of the blankets, the sound of these words, the memory of yesterday. This is the world of science, of cause and effect, of time and space. In this world, everything is determined. Everything is a machine. Your body is a biological clockwork. Your thoughts are electrochemical reactions. Your brain is a computer made of meat. In this world, as we saw, freedom is a logical illusion. This is the world you touch. It is the world you can know. The second reality is the noumenal world. This is the world of the thing in itself. It is the source. It is the outside. It is the world as it actually is, beyond the veil of your senses, beyond the filter of your mind. You can never know this world. You can never touch it. But, and this is the crucial step, you belong to it. You, the I that is listening, the will that chooses, the legislator of the moral law, the ghost in the clockwork. That part of you is not in the phenomenal world. That part of you is a citizen of the noumenal world. In that world, there is no time, there is no space, there is no causality, and therefore in that world you are absolutely free. This is the one you can never know. This is Kant's daring solution to the paradox of freedom. You are both. You are a machine in the phenomenal world, and you are free in the noumenal world. Think of it like a video game. Your body, your brain, your personality, that is your avatar inside the game. That avatar is just code. It is 100% determined by the game's physics. It must obey the rules of causality. When it is shot, it takes damage. When it is tired, it must rest. But you, the player, the will holding the controller, you are outside the game. You are in the noumenal world, the living room. Your choices, to go left, to go right, to act morally, to act selfishly, are not determined by the game's code. You are injecting free will into the determined system. This is the great conflict and the great harmony of human life. This is the war between science and spirituality. The scientist, who studies the avatar and the code, the phenomenal world, is 100% correct. It is all just a machine. Love is just a chemical reaction. Choice is just a cascade of neural firings. The scientist is right, but the humanist, the philosopher, the artist, they are speaking from the perspective of the player, the noumenal world, and they are also 100% correct. My love is real. My choice matters. I am free. They are not contradicting each other. They are simply describing two different realities, two different jurisdictions that meet in the strange hybrid creature that is you. The psychological impact of this is a profound permission. You do not have to choose between being a rational, skeptical, scientific materialist and being a deep, moral, meaningful, spiritual person. You are the bridge. You are the intersection. You are the living paradox. You are the phenomenal body that is bound by every law of physics. And you are the noumenal will that is, and must always be, radically, terrifyingly, and beautifully free. You are the place where the machine and the ghost touch. You are the citizen of two worlds, and your life is the passport that lets you travel in an instant between them. The antinomy of time. Did the universe have a beginning? You are lying here in the dark, and your mind is quiet. But then it does what it was built to do. It wonders, and it asks the biggest, most terrifying late-night question of all. When did this all start? What happened before the Big Bang? But if something happened before it, then that wasn't the beginning. So what was before that? And so the loop begins. Your mind begins to chase its own tail, faster and faster, until it is spinning in a void of anxiety. Kant calls this a thought loop or an antinomy. It is a contradiction where your own reason proves both sides of a question to be absolutely true. It is the sound of your mental engine breaking. Let us, for a moment, be the lawyers in the tribunal of reason, and let's try the first antinomy. Did the universe have a beginning in time? Reason, our star lawyer, stands up. First, it argues the thesis. The universe must have had a beginning. The logic is flawless. Assume, it says, that the universe has no beginning, that it has always existed for an infinite series of moments. If that is true, how did we ever get to this moment? You cannot complete an infinite series. An eternity past would mean that to get to tonight, an infinite number of todays had to pass. This is a logical contradiction. The only way for tonight to exist is if the series started somewhere. The logic is airtight. The universe must have had a beginning. But then, reason, the same lawyer, stands up to argue the antithesis. The universe cannot have had a beginning. And its logic is also flawless. Assume, it says, that the universe did have a beginning, that at some moment X, it started. This means that before moment X, there was nothing, an empty time. But how can something arise from nothing? Nothing cannot cause something. This violates the law of causality. Therefore, something must have always existed. The universe cannot have had a beginning. The logic is also airtight. Reason has successfully and brilliantly proven both that the universe must have a beginning and that it cannot have one. The court is in chaos. Reason has contradicted itself. It has failed. But why? Kant, as the judge, slams down the gavel. He says, reason has not failed. It has simply been tricked. It has been tricked into applying its own rules to a place where they do not belong. The defendant. The universe itself is from the noumenal world, but the rules of the court, time and causality, are from the phenomenal world. Time is not a thing that the universe sits in. Time is one of the architects of your mind. It is your headset. You are asking, what time was it before time existed? You are asking, what caused the first cause? You are applying your internal software to the external reality, and the software has just crashed. This is one of the most liberating ideas in all of philosophy. Kant is giving you permission to stop the loop. The question, did the universe have a beginning, is not unanswered. It is unanswerable. It is a bad question. It is a glitch created by your own operating system. It is like asking, what is north of the North Pole? The question sounds valid, but it is nonsense. The psychological impact is peace. It is the freedom from the burden of needing to solve the infinite. You are a finite mind. You are a creature that generates time. You are not a creature in it. Your job is not to understand the origin of the game. Your job is to play the game that is right here, in the time and space your mind has already built for you. The loop is broken. The case is dismissed. 4. The ghost in the clockwork, the eye that watches the trial. We have now examined the entire trial. We have seen the evidence, the senses, the lawyers, reason, the rules of the court, the categories, the silent defendant, the thing in itself, and the contradictory testimony, the antinomies. But we have forgotten one person, the most important person in the room. Who is the judge? Who is the eye that is watching this trial? Who is the eye that is listening to these words right now? You can point to your body, your brain, your memories. But those are just evidence. They are things in the world. But who is the one that is aware of them? This is the deepest and final mystery, the ghost in the clockwork, or what Kant called the transcendental ego. This I is the most real thing you know. It is the I think that accompanies every single one of your thoughts. You do not just have thoughts, you know you are having them. Your life is not just a random bundle of sensations. It is not just blue, cold, soft, quiet. It is, I see blue, I feel cold, I am aware of the quiet. That I is the thread that strings all the separate pearls of your experience into a single necklace. It is the screen upon which the movie of your life is projected. It is the single, stable, unified point of consciousness that holds your entire chaotic world together. Without it, reality would shatter into a billion disconnected fragments. Kant calls this the transcendental unity of apperception. It is the condition for all experience. But here is the final, shattering Kantian paradox. You cannot know this I. You cannot observe it. You cannot make it an object of study. Why? Because it is the ultimate subject. It is the observer itself. The eye cannot see itself. The flashlight cannot shine on its own bulb. The judge cannot be forced to testify on the witness stand. The I is the one doing the knowing, so it can never be known. The self you think you know, your personality, your job, your memories, your name, that Kant says is just the empirical self. That is the story you tell about yourself. That is the character in the movie. But the transcendental I is the audience. It is the consciousness watching the movie. This is the hard problem of consciousness. This is the self that people search for in meditation, the soul they search for in religion. And Kant's answer is that you cannot find it because it is you. It is not in your head. It is the head. It is not a noun. It is a verb. It is the act of unifying. The psychological impact of this is that you must stop searching. You do not need to find yourself or build yourself. Your true core self is already there. It is not a thing to be discovered. It is the given. It is the light by which you discover everything else. As you lie here, you are that I. You are that ghost. You are that silent, unmoving, invisible judge. You are not the body that is resting. You are not the brain that is processing these words. You are the awareness of the body resting. You are the consciousness of the brain processing. You are the invisible thread. You will never see the thread. You will only ever see the pearls that are strung upon it. And in that, you are the greatest and most profound mystery in your own universe. 25. The architecture of experience, how your mind invented here and now. You feel the space of the room around you. You feel the here, the location of your body. You feel the now, the present moment, distinct from the before and the after. These two things, space and time, are the most fundamental, most real things you know. They are not objects. They are the stage upon which all objects appear. They are the container for your entire life. You live inside them. But what if you don't? What if they live inside you? This is the very foundation of Kant's Copernican revolution. He argues that space and time are not features of the universe. They are not out there to be discovered. They are the two pure forms of intuition. They are the software, the operating system of your mind. They are the invisible architects that invent here and now. Let's deconstruct this. Think of space. You see a lamp over there and a door over here. You perceive them as separate, existing in a three-dimensional grid. Kant argues that you do not get this idea of space from the objects. You use the idea of space to organize the objects. Space is the preloaded grid in your mind that allows you to have an over there and over here in the first place. It is the lens you were born wearing. If you take an object, you can mentally remove all its properties, its color, its weight, its texture, but you cannot mentally remove the space it sits in. You cannot conceive of an object that is not in space. This, Kant says, is the proof, because you cannot remove it. It must not come from the object. It must come from you. It is a condition of your perception. The same is true, perhaps even more profoundly, of time. You experience your life as a linear sequence, a memory of before, an experience of now, an anticipation of next. This is the river of time. But Kant argues that this river does not flow in the universe. It flows in your mind. Time is your inner sense. It is the software your consciousness uses to organize its own states. You cannot think a thought or feel an emotion except in a sequence. Try to have two thoughts at the exact same time. You cannot. One must come before and one after. This linear sequence is time. It is the filing system of your consciousness. The thing in itself, the raw reality outside your mind, may not be in time at all. It may be an eternal now, a simultaneous, chaotic everything. But your mind, in order to process that chaos, must run it through this time software, breaking it down into a single digestible linear feed. This is the very architecture of your experience. You are not a camera in a room recording a sequence of events. You are the projector that is creating the roomness, space, and the sequence time simultaneously. The here and now are your invention. This is not to say they are fake. They are real. They are the structure of your reality, the phenomenal world. But they are not absolute. They are not the structure of the universe, the noumenal world. The psychological impact is a complete reorientation. You are not a victim of time being dragged along by its current. You are, at a deep unconscious level, the source of that current. The now is not a moment you are in. It is a moment your mind is creating. As you lie here, you are resting in here, and you are waiting in now. Feel them. Feel the volume of the room around you. Feel the steady pulse of the passing seconds. They feel solid. They feel external. But they are not. They are the two great, invisible, foundational acts of translation that your mind is performing ceaselessly to build this very moment for you. You are not in the matrix. You are the matrix. You are not in the architecture. You are the architect. And here and now are the two majestic, invisible pillars you have built to hold up your entire world. The empty screen. The self as a condition for knowing, not a thing to be known. We have been searching for the self. We have called it the ghost, the judge, the eye that watches. We have this deep, intuitive certainty that I am a thing, a soul, a mind, a me, something solid and stable that has experiences. We believe I am the actor who has a life. We go searching for this self, trying to find it. We look in our memories. We look in our personalities. We look in our brains. And when we look for it, we cannot find it. This, Kant argues, is because we are looking for the wrong thing. We are searching for an object when the self is not an object at all. It is not a thing to be known. It is the condition for knowing. It is the empty screen. Think of the self you think you know, your name, your job, your past. The I that is a kind person or a person who likes coffee. Kant calls this the empirical ego. This is the self as an object of study. You can observe this self, you can analyze it, but this self is just a bundle of perceptions. It is a story. It is a collection of data in the world. But who is the one that is aware of this story? Who is the one that gathers this bundle? That, Kant says, is the transcendental ego. And this self is not a thing. It is a function. It is a process. It is the unity that holds the experience together. Let's use the metaphor of a movie theater. The empirical self, your personality, your memories, is the movie being played. It is the story, the characters, the events. You can watch this movie, you can study it, you can say, this is my story, but the transcendental self, that I, is the movie screen. It is the empty, formless, silent background upon which the movie is projected. You cannot see the screen while the movie is playing. If you could see it, it would just be another object in the movie. The screen's entire job is to be invisible, to be empty, so that the movie can become visible. The screen does not have a color. It is the condition for all color. The screen does not have a story. It is the condition for all stories. You cannot know this self. You can never find it. The moment you try to turn around and look at the screen, you must use the tools of perception, time, space, causality. And the moment you do that, you are just projecting another movie onto it. You are projecting the story of me searching for myself. You can never grasp the knower. You can only grasp the known. This is the ultimate boundary of reason. You are this screen. You are this transcendental ego. But you can never make yourself your own object. This is a devastating and profoundly liberating idea. It is devastating because it means all our searching for a solid soul or a core self is doomed. We are, at our core, empty. We are a function, but it is liberating for the exact same reason. You are not your story. You are not your past. You are not your trauma. You are not your personality. You are not your thoughts. Those are just the movie being played. You are the screen. You are the awareness that is watching the movie. And the screen is untouched. The screen is pristine. The most violent, terrifying movie does not stain the screen. The most beautiful, joyful movie does not become the screen. The movie ends. The screen remains. As you lie here, you are that screen. You are that vast, empty, silent awareness. Your thoughts are drifting by like images. Your sensations are flickering. Your memories are playing. But you, the I that is aware of all this, you are not those things. You are the space in which they are happening. You are the condition. You are the emptiness that makes the fullness possible. You do not have to find yourself. You just have to be the awareness that is here, now, watching. Block 27. The asymmetry of the self. Knowing that you are, but not what you are. We come now to a deep and subtle paradox in our own self-awareness. It is the strangest imbalance in all of our knowledge. You, lying here, know one thing with more certainty than anything else in the universe. It is the one fact that requires no proof, no senses, no logic. It is the simple, immediate, undeniable fact, I am, that you exist, that you are conscious. This is the foundation. It is the I think that accompanies every thought. You know that you are, but at the exact same moment, you are confronted with the opposite, equal, and equally massive mystery. You have no idea what you are. This is the asymmetry of the self. You have 100% certainty that you exist and 0% knowledge of what you exist as. Let's explore this. The certainty of that I am is absolute. It is the transcendental ego we just spoke of. It is the subject, the knower. It is the light itself. You are that light. You do not need to see the light to use it to see. Its very use is the proof of its existence. This is the I. But now, you try to answer the second question, what am I? The moment you ask what, you are asking for an object. You are asking for a description. You are asking for data. You are asking the light to describe itself. And how does it do that? It must shine on something. It must look for evidence. And what does it find? It finds the empirical self. It finds a body, a brain, a history, a personality. It finds a bundle of perceptions. And so you answer the question, what am I? By saying, I am a person. I am my memories. I am a chemical system. I am a father, a mother, a worker. But are you? Are you your memories? You can lose your memories, but you are still there. Are you your body? Your body is changing every second, but you feel continuous. Are you your thoughts? Your thoughts are chaotic and contradictory, but you are the single, stable awareness watching them. You are not any of the things you can point to. You are the pointer. This is the asymmetry. You are the I, but you can only describe the me. And the me is not the I. The I is the noumenal self, the subject, the knopen. The me is the phenomenal self, the object, the known. This is the great, tragic, and beautiful gap in our existence. You are a subject that desperately wants to know itself as an object, but you cannot. It is a logical and structural impossibility. You are forever a certainty to yourself, and forever a mystery to yourself. You are the one thing you can be sure of, and the one thing you can never grasp. All of spirituality, all of psychology, is just humanity wrestling with this asymmetry. We are trying to fill in the blank of what am I. We crave an identity. We crave a what. So we attach ourselves to the objects we can know. We identify with our bodies, our jobs, our nationalities, our beliefs. We say, I am that, but we are not. We are the awareness that is attached to that. And this attachment is the source of all our suffering, because those objects can be lost. The body gets sick, the job ends, the belief is challenged. And when the object we identify with is threatened, we feel like we are dying. Kant's philosophy is the liberation from this. It is the permission to rest in the that I am, without needing to answer the what I am. You do not need a what. Your dignity is not in what you are. It is in that you are. It is in the fact of your rational, conscious existence. As you lie here, you are a pure certainty and a total mystery. You are that you are. That is all you know, and it is all you need to know. You are not the story. You are the knower of the story. You are not the object. You are the subject. And in this asymmetry, in this beautiful, unbridgeable gap between knowing and being, is the very space that makes you human. The necessary illusion of the soul. We have established that you cannot know the I. You cannot find the self as an object. The transcendental ego is a function, an empty screen. The soul, as a solid, immortal, discoverable thing, has been dismissed by the tribunal of reason. Science looks inside the brain, and it finds no soul, it finds no ghost, it finds only wiring and chemistry. From the perspective of pure speculative knowledge, the soul is an illusion. And yet, you feel it. You feel like a single, unified, continuous self. You feel like the you of today is the same you as the you of 10 years ago, even though every cell in your body has changed. You feel a unity that your body does not have. Why do we have this persistent, powerful, necessary feeling of a soul? Kant argues that just like God, the immortality of the soul is a necessary postulate of practical reason. It is another rational faith. We cannot know it, but we must assume it in order to make morality possible. The argument is simple, and it connects back to the highest good. The moral law commands us to be perfect, to always act from duty, to achieve a holy will. This is the goal. But look at your life. Look at human life. We are not perfect. We are a mess. We are a constant, unsocial battle between our radical evil, self-love, and the moral law. We make some progress. We get better, but we will never be perfect in this life. A finite life is not enough time to achieve the infinite goal of moral perfection. This creates a rational contradiction. Reason commands us to achieve a goal that is impossible to achieve in the time allotted. This makes the moral law seem absurd. It is a joke. So, Kant argues, to save the rationality of the moral law, we must postulate, we must assume, that our existence does not end with the death of our body. We must assume an immortality of the soul. We must believe that we have an infinite future in which to continue the work of becoming morally perfect. The soul is the postulate of endless progress. It is the necessary illusion that allows us to keep trying, even though we know we will fail in this lifetime. This is a soul unlike any other. It is not a thing you have. It is a promise your reason makes to itself. It is the idea of your continuity. It is the form of your identity over time. This feeling of being a soul is your reason's solution to the problem of time. Your body is trapped in phenomenal time, and it will die. But your moral self, your noumenal I, is not in time. And in order to make sense of its moral journey, it projects the idea of an infinite continuation. The soul is the story your reason needs to tell itself to justify the effort of being good. This is a profoundly comforting and deeply rational idea. Kant is not asking you to blindly believe in a ghost. He is saying that your own reason constructs this necessary illusion for you, because without it, the entire moral project collapses. When you feel like a self, when you feel that core of identity that persists through your whole life, you are not perceiving a thing. You are experiencing the necessity of your own moral journey. You are feeling the postulate. As you lie here, you are both. You are a finite body, a collection of dying cells, a bundle of fleeting memories. That is the empirical truth. But you are also a rational will on a journey toward an infinite perfection. That is the necessary moral truth. The soul is the bridge between these two realities. It is the illusion that you invent so that you can wake up tomorrow and try one more time to be good. The chasm of the will, the gap between knowing and doing. We have built a beautiful, rational palace. We have the knowledge of the moral law, the categorical imperative generated by our own reason. We have the postulates of God and the soul, which give us the hope and the time to pursue this law. We know with absolute crystalline clarity what is right, and yet we don't do it. This is the final and most tragically human paradox of Kant's system. It is the chasm of the will. It is the gap, the canyon, that yawns between knowing the good and doing the good. You can be the most brilliant Kantian philosopher in the world, capable of explaining the moral law in all its purity, and still, tomorrow, you will lie to a friend to avoid an awkward conversation. You will use someone as a means. You will fail. This is the problem that radical evil introduced, but here we feel its practical, daily, agonizing weight. Kant has given us a map of the moral universe, but he has not given us the strength to walk the path. He has proven that we are free, but he has not explained why our freedom so often BS's to betray itself. Why do we know the right thing and do the wrong thing? The ought, he says, implies can. If your reason tells you that you ought to do something, it implies that you can do it. But the daily experience of our lives feels like a contradiction of this. We feel the ought, but we feel like we cannot. We feel weak. We feel tempted. We feel human. Kant's system is so cold, so rational, that it has difficulty explaining this warm, irrational failure of the will. He can describe it. He calls it frailty or depravity, the choice to subordinate the moral law to our self-love. But he cannot solve it with a simple logical move. The solution cannot be another thought. The solution must be an act. It must be what he calls a revolution of the will. It is a choice. It is the decision to reprioritize, to force your will back into alignment with your reason. And this is not a choice you make once. It is a choice you must make every single day, every single moment. This is the true burden of Kantian freedom. Freedom is not easy. It is not doing whatever you want. That for Kant is just slavery to your desires, heteronomy. True freedom, autonomy, is the hard, painful, constant work of forcing your animal self to obey your rational self. It is the struggle. So the dignity of humanity is not that we are perfect. It is that we are capable of this struggle. An angel is not moral because it has no temptation to overcome. An animal is not immoral because it has no reason to obey. You are the battleground. You are the only creature in the cosmos that knows the perfect law and feels the perfect temptation to break it. This is the chasm. As you lie here, you know this gap. You know it as the diet you will start tomorrow. You know it as the book you intend to read. You know it as the apology you know you owe. You know it as the person you want to be and the person you were today. They are not the same. This gap is your life. It is the space of your moral work. Kant's philosophy does not close this gap for you. It illuminates it. It names it. It honors it. It tells you that this struggle, this gap between knowing and doing, is not a flaw in your system. It is the system. It is the definition of being a free, rational, imperfect human being. Your job is not to close the cham. Your job is to live in it. The final silence. The world as a reflection of your own mind. We have reached the end of this journey. We have followed the thread of reason from the smallest act of perception to the largest questions of the cosmos. We have taken the outside world, the world of trees and stars and other people, and we have drawn it inside. We have discovered that time and space are the software of our mind. We have discovered that causality and logic are the rules of our own thought. We have discovered that the moral law is not a command from God, but the voice of our own reason. We have found that God and soul are necessary postulates that our mind creates to make sense of its own moral journey. We have, in short, completed the Copernican revolution. The world is not out there. The world, as you know it, is in here. You are not a passive camera recording a pre-existing reality. You are an active projector creating the very reality you are experiencing. The entire world, in its structure, its meaning, its beauty, its terror, its moral weight, is a reflection of the architecture of your own mind. You are living inside your own head. This is the final, profound, and silent conclusion of Kant's entire philosophy. It is the veil of reality, but from the other side. It is not a prison. It is a creation. This is a lonely and an empowering thought. It is lonely because it means you are, in a deep and profound sense, alone. You are locked inside your own phenomenal headset. You can never know if my blue is the same as your blue. You can never know the thing in itself. You can never know the true reality. All you can ever know is the translation your mind produces. You are a legislator, sovereign and alone in your own universe. But it is also empowering. It means you are the center, you are the source, you are the author. If the world you experience is a reflection of your mind, then you have the power over it, not over the raw data, the Noumena, but over the meaning and structure you give it. This is the ultimate responsibility. If the moral law is your own voice, you cannot ignore it. If the world's purpose is an illusion you create, you must create a good one. If your freedom is real, your choices are the most important thing in the universe. The world has become your mirror. When you look out at the world tomorrow, you are not looking at the world. You are looking at your own operating system. You are seeing your own logic, and you are feeling your own moral law. As you finally drift towards sleep, the world dissolves. The phenomena fade. The architects of your mind, time and space, grow quiet. The projector shuts down. And in that moment, in the pause between consciousness and dream, you get the closest you will ever get to the silence behind the veil. You return, for a moment, to the pure, formless I that exists before the world is built. You are no longer the architect. You are no longer the legislator. You are just the screen, the empty, silent, waiting awareness. And when you wake, you will turn it all on again. You will build the world all over again. In the first second of the morning, you are the beginning and the end, the dreamer and the dream. Those who arrive here understand more than words. Leave a word below that captures what you felt tonight, and share it with someone who still searches for meaning.